The NFL world is currently buzzing with an absolutely massive, high-stakes trade rumor that could completely reshape the power dynamic of the entire NFC. We are talking about a potential blockbuster deal involving one of the most dominant, violent, and disruptive defensive forces in the league, a player who literally changes the way an entire offense has to game plan every single week. This isn't just another off-season whisper. This is a seismic shift. There is growing talk about a potential trade that would send that powerhouse defensive tackle out of Philadelphia and straight into the defensive front of the San Francisco 49ers. But before we dive in, smash that subscribe button if you want the fastest, most intense NFL updates on the planet. If this trade were to actually go down, the compensation package being discussed is astronomical. We are looking at reports suggesting multiple first-round picks and additional high-round draft capital heading back to the Eagles. It is a king's ransom for a defensive tackle. But why would a team even consider moving a player this young and this talented? And what exactly is going on behind the scenes that has brought us to this point? That is the question everyone is asking. Is this a genius move, or is it a complete disaster in the making? To understand why this rumor has legs, you have to look at the current financial landscape of the NFL. We are in an era where teams have to be incredibly strategic with their salary cap. The Philadelphia Eagles have been known for being proactive, signing their stars well before the market explodes. But something has shifted. Usually, this front office gets ahead of the curve. They lock their cornerstone players in early. However, this time they have waited. They are approaching a massive crossroads with their defensive superstar, and the market has just been reset in a way that makes this decision infinitely more difficult. Just recently, a massive contract was handed out to a star defensive tackle in the AFC that completely blew the doors off the positions market. We're talking about a deal that pushed the annual salary well past the $35 million mark. When you see the kind of money being thrown around, and you have an agent like Drew Rosenhaus representing your star, you know exactly what the demand is going to be. If this defensive tackle hits the open market, or even just approaches the end of his current deal, he is going to be looking for that highest paid player in history tag. He has the tape to back it up. He is one of the few players in this league who can take over a game all by himself, collapsing a pocket and forcing turnovers when the team needs it most. But here's the catch. Are you really going to pay two different interior defensive linemen upwards of $26 to $36 million each per year? Think about the math for a second. You already have a massive investment in your other defensive tackle. You have high-priced edge rushers. You have secondary pieces that need to be paid. At some point, the checkbook runs dry. This is where the rumors start to gain weight. It is not necessarily because the team doesn't love the player. It is because the team might be forced to make a cold, calculated business decision. If you can trade a player who is about to become incredibly expensive for a massive haul of draft capital, you could theoretically restock your entire roster with young, cheap, high-end talent. But then there is the other side of the coin. If you're the San Francisco 49ers, you're looking at your championship window. You have been knocking on the door for years. You have elite talent across the board, but you're still searching for that one final piece that puts you over the top. Could this be the move that finally gets you that ring? The prospect of pairing a talent like this with a high-motor edge rusher creates a defensive front that would be virtually unblockable. It would force opponents to double-team the interior, which frees up the edges to hunt the quarterback. But who is to blame if this trade ends up being a bust? Is it the team for not paying the man, or the team for overpaying for his services? Drop a name below and tell me who you think holds the power in this standoff. Now, let's get into the personality. Some fans are concerned about the baggage. There have been incidents in the past, some highly publicized, some involving lapses in judgment on the field. There was the infamous incident where he was ejected for his conduct during a game against a high-profile quarterback. But there is a philosophy in this league that says you need psychos on your defensive line. You want your quarterbacks to be polished, professional, and composed, the guys who come from stable backgrounds. But on the defensive line, you want the guys who have a screw loose. You want the guys who play with a level of violence that borders on pure hatred for the opponent. That is who this player is. He is intense, he is violent, and he is absolutely relentless. Off the field, he has been nothing but professional lately, showing up to mandatory minicamps, signing autographs, and engaging with fans. The maturity seems to be growing, but in the trenches, he is a different animal. But wait until you hear how he actually graded out during the playoffs. The numbers might shock you. When you look at the stats, it is easy to see why he is so highly coveted. Even in a season where he missed time and was dealing with nagging shoulder injuries, his pressure rate was elite. He was constantly in the backfield. He was batting down passes. He was making quarterbacks uncomfortable. In his standout seasons, he led his position in forced fumbles. He was at the top of the league in pressures, quarterback hits, and hurries. And here is the kicker. He does all of this while facing double teams on almost every single snap. That is the definition of a force multiplier. Think back to the Super Bowl run. He was everywhere. The way that defense dismantled high-powered offenses without even needing to blitz, that is entirely dependent on having a guy in the middle who can win his one-on-one battles instantly. He is not necessarily the same build as the all-time greats. He is bigger, thicker, and more powerful, but he uses that size to overwhelm interior linemen who are used to dealing with faster, smaller players. It is a different kind of violence. It is about moving people against their will. So, can this trade actually happen? For the 49ers, the hurdle isn't just the salary cap. It is the sheer amount of assets you have to give up. We are talking about 2 first-round picks and a third-rounder. That is an all-in move. That is the kind of move the Rams made when they won their title. It is the screw-them-picks mentality. If you make this trade, you're telling your entire locker room, your veterans, your core leaders, your coaching staff, that you are here to win right now. You're not building for 3 years from now. You're building for February. But there is a risk. What if the shoulders don't hold up? What if the baggage comes back? If you're a fan of this team, you have to ask, do you trust the front office to make this gamble? Do you think they're desperate enough to sell the future for one shot at the trophy? We're going to take a deeper look at the defensive tackle depth chart next, and why some people are actually starting to think that this superstar might be expendable. Look at the rest of the defensive tackle room. There's so much talent currently being developed. You have young players who are starting to come into their own, guys who are high motor, athletic freaks who are just waiting for their moment. If you have a group that is performing at a high level, you have to ask if paying one single player the GDP of a small country is the best way to allocate your resources. Could you take that same money and spread it across 3 other positions that need help? That is the genius, or the madness, of the current Eagles front office. They're always thinking about the long-term health of the organization. They're always looking at the what-if scenarios. They're planning for the extensions of their secondary and their edge rushers. It is a complex game of musical chairs with millions of dollars on the line. But if you move this player, you are removing the centerpiece of your defense. You are betting that the sum of the parts is greater than the one superstar. Ultimately, it comes down to a clash of philosophies. One side says you keep your blue-chip talents at all costs because stars win championships. The other side says you manage your assets, you capitalize on their value when it hits its peak, and you constantly refresh the roster to stay young and hungry. The 49ers are in a position where they have to be aggressive. They have the cap space, they have the veteran core, and they have the urgency. But giving up that much draft capital is a move you can't walk back. If you do it, you have to be right. So what is the reality? We are in a wait-and-see period. The draft assets are valuable, the player is elite, and the rumors are flying. Every day that passes without an extension, this trade talk is only going to get louder. Is this the biggest gamble in modern NFL history? Or is it just another smart move by 2 of the best-run front offices in the game? The season is coming fast. The camps are open. The tension is rising. And when this story finally breaks, it is going to send shockwaves through every locker room in the league. Stay tuned, because things are about to get very, very interesting.